Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hope everyone's doing absolutely great. Today I'm here to talk about a very important topic. I think it's very relevant to everyone, and that is how to rock an interview. That's correct. We give interviews in our everyday lives. Some of us are giving it more often than others. Um, and so it's very essential to actually ace the interview so that you get your dream job. I also have another video on my channel where I talk about tips and tricks for a video interview. Please go check that out. I think that's like super useful, but I think this video is like a general one where I generally tell you how to actually rock an interview. Most of my friends, colleagues, they like reach out to me before an interview. I personally think that I'm good with interviews, and I also like give them a lot of suggestions personally, and it works. I also learn from the interviews I give, and it's all like it's a learning experience. I think you carry something out of everything, whatever happens or whatever interviews you give. So here I'm going to tell you about it, and hope it turns out to be helpful for you guys. I'm sure it will. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to give you pointers, and make sure you have your notes, and yeah, you're good to go. Okay, so the first point is plan your first impression. That's very correct, because it's very important to have a good first impression, like even generally in life, I would say, and especially when it comes to interviews. So when you talk about first impression, it's basically the first 20-30 seconds. It's actually the first 20 seconds of you meeting the interviewer. So when you walk into that room, once they look at you, everyone's going to have like a perception about you. It's obvious, right? It's general. You can't deny that people do judge you on your first impression. So it's very important to dress up right, groom yourself, look nice, have a nice smile on your face, carry yourself with a lot of confidence. I think there are a lot of things which can go wrong, but if you have like confidence, I think that covers it all. Like, nothing can overpower that. So it's very important to stay confident. So when you enter the room, make sure you always have eye contact with the person you're talking to. Have a nice firm handshake, have the right kind of body language, dress up very well, like which is like formal, and which is relevant to the kind of interview you're giving, right? It also depends on the kind of industry you're applying for the position you're applying for. So all of your dressing depends on that as well. And yeah, so it's very important to give a good first impression. So plan that very well. And lot of people, lot of interviewers, like as a matter of fact, like at least 30-40%, they just like decide in the first 20-30 seconds, okay, maybe if they want to go ahead with you or not. So it's like super critical to be really well groomed, and to actually give a good first impression. Yeah. And next thing is how to answer. Tell me about yourself. Now the interview, they can ask you a lot of questions, right? But it always starts with this particular question, which is tell me about yourself. Now you've been like growing up, you've been giving so many interviews, so you all know, you guys know the drill, right? So when they ask you something about tell me about yourself, you're probably going to tell everything, where you're from, the companies you've worked for, your education, a lot of other things about yourself, maybe your hobbies. But personally, I would say do not like give a long personal story. Some people just get so engrossed, like they'll start where they were born, where they grew up, like where they studied. All of that is good, but you also need to remember that it needs to be a crisp answer. Like they obviously want to know some background of yours, but they do not want to know, like they're not sitting there to learn your whole family history, because a lot of it is already on the resume. They just want to know something which is not on the resume, right? So you gotta like just be very interesting, and you also want to make sure that whatever, a lot of people don't do this, but whatever job role you're applying for, make sure you also like talk about the some of the skills you have, so that even when you're just talking, it's not like you're selling yourself, but you're indirectly actually selling yourself in the interview. So you have to like use points, or speak on points which will also reflect that in an indirect way of how good you're in that job, in the job you're applying for, if you know what I mean. So like for example, if like my job relates to a lot of people management, I would be like, yeah, I love talking to people, like I love like going on workshops, I love doing this. So it's something, at the end of the day, they're getting that information, or the message is sent across that you're somebody, you're a people's person, and you need to like frame your tell me about yourself around that, and make it very natural and flowy, correct? That brings me to my next point, which talks about sell yourself naturally. It's very important to sell yourself naturally. Like when you're talking to somebody, like how I'm talking to it, it should be like very natural. It's something which is coming from my heart. It's something which whenever you're saying something from your heart without any like lot of preparation, it just touches the other person. It is meaningful and it makes sense. If you are just talking like out of a book or something which you read on the internet, it is not natural. Like people get it, like people are not dumb, they just get it that you've just read something and you're just vomiting that out. So it's very important to be very natural. Like obviously you have like points, but then when you're talking to someone, make it sound like really really natural, and like a story, and so that people are more interested. Like everybody reads whatever is out there on the internet or the books, but when you say it naturally, it's more relevant and it's more relatable, I would say. Yeah. Next is prepare speaking points, don't prepare a script. It's very important to not, like a lot of people, especially people who are like introverts, who are not used to talking much to people. So they what they do is they prepare, they literally sit and prepare a script that, okay, they're going to ask me this, so I'm going to answer this. They're going to ask me that, I'm going to answer this. They're going to ask me that, I'm going to answer this. It's like la la la. It's like a set script in their head. But and then sometimes, and when you're just doing the execution, and when they're actually asking that question, and if it's something different, or if you forget something and that person like ends up fumbling and stuff like that, like you actually screw up your interview. So I would say just keep, like, definitely prepare for your interview, like keep some speaking points, like you have like bullet points in your mind that, okay, I'm going to talk about this, yes, I'm going to talk about this, and frame it in your own way, have your own way of saying things, explaining things, right? Do not follow any script. I would not suggest that. Like for extroverts, it's much more easier because it comes quite naturally. But for people who are not used to like talking much in interviews, or who get a bit nervous, I would say do not mug up any script. Do not like just do all of that. Rather have speaking points and then talk about it accordingly, right? So do that, have speaking points and like revolve, like talk about it, and that's so much more natural, and that's so much more impactful. Yeah. Next is avoid generic answers. Like see, if they're asking you some question, do not avoid, like don't say things which are already like people already know it. Like like if they ask you about a certain situation, don't just say, okay, I've been very resilient in my projects, I have I never give up, I always meet deadlines, and I am really like very very patient, I'm good with people management. Like I can just like tell a lot of things about myself, right? That's very generic. Like people know that, and they know that, okay, these are the skills we are looking for, and so if she tells that she has good communication, we're gonna like buy that. That's not how it works. So whenever you're giving answers, make sure it's not generic, make sure it's specific. Like if you are talking about something and they give you a certain situation, or they're asking you a certain thing, make sure you give examples, like give like talk about a certain situation where you've like shown that skill or exhibited that, and that's how it's like helped that situation. That's a lot more relatable, and that's a lot more like understandable. People will like, okay, fine, yeah, this is cool, like she did a good job, like she's actually resilient, or she knows how to like negotiate, or she knows how to manage people. So if I give examples, that is really cool. So always give examples, be very specific, don't give generic or like very vague answers, right? Cool. So the next point is know the company and the position well. Always do your homework. I would say always do your research. I'm not somebody who recommends people to like sit like a month and like keep studying, like mugging up things. No, never do that. But I'm also a person who tells like do your preparation, do your thing well. Um, Read about the company, read about the position you're applying for. Very, very important. It's You need to know everything about the company, like the basic stuff, whatever is on the website, whatever is on Wikipedia, all. But apart from that, you also need, that's like a basic standard stuff, but you also need to know other stuff about the new maybe the press releases for the company. What are the latest launches they're having? What are they actually going into in the near future? What are their goals towards the CSR activities? How are they like working towards a sustainable environment? You need to like know what are the awards they've recently won. Like if they won something on innovation, what's that they're working on, what's so innovative about the company, what are the projects they're working on, what is on the internet, what's like available to the public. You need to like know everything about that. And you also need to know the position you're applying for, like learn about it very well. Especially I always tell everyone, like the job description should be like it should be just so easy for you. It should be registered in your head, like okay fine, this is the role, this is what it is. You need to know every single line about the description, because usually what happens is when they ask questions, it usually surrounds the job description. Like they'll be like, if it's about vendor management, for example, you need that skill, so they'll ask you like, have you done vendor management before? Do you use any softwares? What is the kind of tools you use? So everything revolves around that. So it's very important to understand, so that you prepare the JD very well, you prepared for the company very well. So they'll be like, oh my god, she's like super prepared, so we love her. So that's how you create a good impression. Yeah. Next is show enthusiasm for the role. So when you're talking about the role and they'll be like, why are you really interested in that role? It's very important to say that you have to show your enthusiasm and your excitement for the role, because it's very important, because you're applying for it and you know that it's super critical for you to get that job. So it's very important for you to like really show that you're very keen on getting it, and that you've done enough research on the role, and that you would be a right fit in for that particular job, or the particular position. So always show enthusiasm. Don't like you don't have to be like too loud, or you don't have to talk too much to show your enthusiasm. You can also tell it very subtly. You can talk about like how you've worked on certain projects, or how you're interested in certain things, and how that experience will be relevant to this new position you're applying for. You need to like highlight few things, but those few things need to be like really really impactful, and that's how you can show your enthusiasm for the role. Yeah. And next one is share short stories with the star format. Now what this means is, whenever you're talking about stories, sometimes what happens is when you're starting to tell a story, so they might ask you about, tell me a situation, how you've handled this, or how you've worked on this project. They might just ask you a lot of things. So sometimes what happens is we start talking too much, and we tend to digress it. I remember like back in the day when I applied for one of the MBA interviews, I did that, I goofed up, and then I was just talking so much, and then it was like it was too long, and though I got that thing, but then I realized that I it wasn't the best thing to do, because then they are like so confused. Okay, why is she going on and on? Like, can she just stop? Like you need to like stop somewhere. Like you just confuse them, and you're also in a process in a way consuming a lot of their time. The whole point is you need to give the message, and in a short and a crisp way. That's all you need. So basically, here you have to tell stories in a star format. That's how you do in interviews. Now, what is a star format? Star format is situation. S stands for situation, T stands for task, A stands for action or the approval, and R stands for results. So basically, what you do is you explain the situation, and then you give a background of the situation, and then you tell the task which was assigned to you, and then you talk about the actions or the steps you took to deal with that task, and then what is the outcome or the result of it. So basically that's what star format is. So if you say that, it's really good, because then you have like a sequence in which you're talking about the situation, how you performed the task, how you took up the responsibility, your action plan, and how what was the result or the outcome of it. Basically, when you tell these stories, again, it's, as I said, it could be time consuming, so you have to make sure like you like be mindful about the time you're consuming. So I would say not more than 1 or 2 minutes. So the situation part and the task part doesn't take long. The action part, the steps you took in the whole situation or the task which was given, that part consumes more time. So be mindful of that, and then obviously the results there. This make sure that you say stories. Definitely, like, your interview should be about stories, but make sure it's not, doesn't consume more than 1 or 2 minutes, I would say. Yeah. Next one is, don't overthink your body language. As I said, body language is really important, but then don't overthink it. Don't get conscious. Okay, I have to be this way, or have to like keep my shoulders a certain way, or do I have to do this? I have to do that. I have to do this. Like my expressions, I have to like be conscious. Like, you do not need to do that. Of course, you need to have the right body language, but do not overthink it, because sometimes when you overthink it, you kind of like mess things up, and you do not want to do that. So I would say just have a good body language, like use a lot of your hands. Sometimes people like I say, like, you have to smile, you have to give eye contact, and people like overdo it, and they're like always like talking about with their hands, and then the whole the interviewer is looking at the hand and then no more looking at you or whatever you're saying. So don't overdo anything, don't overthink, like let it come naturally to you. I think doing it naturally is very important, and that's more relevant, and yeah, and that's more relatable, I would say. People will like connect to you when you do things naturally. So yeah, and even if you're like introvert, if you have like, do it your way. It's fine if you don't like talk too much. I think people will more appreciate your honesty, the way you are, the way you present yourself, like whatever you are, rather than you faking to be somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, if you are an introvert and you're just trying to act like an extrovert just to get this job, that is wrong. Like, people are going to get it at some point or the other, maybe during the interview or after the interview. So I would say just be yourself. Like, if you are a certain way, then be it that way. Like, sell yourself that way. I think people want you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be. So I think just don't overdo anything. And last but not the least, end on a positive note. Like, always, like, end it on a positive note. Like if they're asking any question, any feedback, then you say nice things. Do not end asking that, okay, do you have any concerns about me? Then they'll be like concern is already a negative word, so that will like get into their head, and they'll be like, okay, maybe we do not know what to do. Like, it's just not positive, and it may just like backfire you. So always end it on a positive note, ask positive things, or try to like uh, get like a positive outcome of the whole discussion and the interview. Yeah. So I think these are like really really simple things, but then they're very very relevant, and they're super super important. I think if you follow this, I'm 100% telling you, I'm going to get that job. So it's just, I feel nothing is rocket science. It's just that you need to like be smart. As I said, you like, I always tell like all my friends and everybody who I talk to that you don't have to be like a hard worker. I think you need to like work smart. And if you work smart, it always like like hard work and smart work need to go hand in hand, and that's how you ace in today's world. Yeah. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. And thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you in my next video. Cheers.